Good morning and welcome to this session of the live coaching classes conducted by the Board of Studies of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. It's nice to see people. Yeah, Somesh Karat, Mr. Hitesh Jain, of course, and Ayush, Sushil Kumar Barik. Welcome, and others if you are there. Yes, welcome to all of you. Just, acknowledge your presence by just putting a good morning message there, and I'll know that you are there. 1, 2. Today, we are going to get into the General Clauses Act. We made a beginning in the last session. So this session, we are going to go further into this law. See, unlike other enactments, the General Clauses Act is not a cohesive law. Why? Because it is meant to address issues which could arise in other laws and give clarity. I repeat, the General Clauses Act is meant to address or to take up issues which could arise in other laws, and this law will say, hey, this is what you have to do in this situation, or if this is there, this is what it means, like that. So that way, the law is more of a collection of definitions and rules which need to be kept in mind if at all we have a problem in another enactment. Important point we need to understand is extent of operation, okay? Right? This law will apply to all central acts. Please understand, normally when we talk about extent, we say this, the Constitution, when it talks about territorial extent, it will say it extends to the whole. All central acts will extend to the whole of India. Once upon a time, except Jammu and Kashmir, today that is not there. So in those days, some law will not extend to Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, but now it's not so, as you are well aware. The point here is, this law does not have a territorial extent. Why? Because it is, you can even say, in a very different way, you can say, this law is like a parasitic law. See, a parasite goes wherever that organism goes, the parasite goes along with it. Okay, so it's inside you. The virus or parasite is inside you. It's like that. This law is applicable to all laws, central acts. All central act, any act passed by the Parliament of India. Okay, automatically. So wherever those laws extend, automatically this will. So when the Constitution was extended and the laws of India were extended to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, automatically the General Clauses Act got extended there. Right? This is something you might want to keep in mind. Anyway, so I'm not going to waste your time on this. And one more thing now, I'm sure as a fresh student of law, coming to this subject for the first time, some of you may feel a little bored with all this, dominion, all that stuff. So my suggestion, ignore all that. In fact, I'm going to ignore many of these sections while teaching. Because today, we are way, this was passed in 1897, then revised in 1948. So we are way ahead now, right? So as far as current situation is concerned, we have the Parliament of India, which makes the law. The Parliament consists of two houses of Parliament, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Then we have the President of India. So the law has to pass through 3 stages, or rather, I'll tell you 5 stages. A, the law has to be proposed in Lok Sabha, seconded, discussed, deliberated, then finally the law is approved by Lok Sabha. Means a majority of the members of the Lok Sabha agree to that law. It is not a law now. It has to go to Rajya Sabha. Again, there is a debate. There is one more chance for it to come back to Lok Sabha for revision and then again passing and sending, whatever. So the members of the Rajya Sabha who are selected based on their knowledge and their experience, some of them are co-opted, they give their mind. But generally it is automatic. Once it comes through Lok Sabha, it goes through Rajya Sabha. Then we still have one more control in our constitution, which is the president who is independent of the executive. The president of India is not part of the executive. He can monitor the executive. That's one important power that the president has. So the president looks at the law once more. Possibly he takes legal advice. He looks at all the opinions received from the press, from the citizens of the country, Okay, there are activist groups. Everybody has a vested interest in a law. These are considered by the president, and finally, based on that, he has the power to send it back to the Lok Sabha for revision. He has, but by and large, he will not. 99% of the time, he will sign. Once it receives the assent of the President of India. Now, in some places, you will see the word Governor General. Don't worry, there is no Governor General now. Yeah, it was the Governor General was there for a short while. Okay, till the President was appointed. The first President was appointed. We had a Governor General. Okay, to my knowledge, C. Rajagopalachari was the Governor General. So then that is just a matter of British choice that before the President comes, somebody has to be there, right? So the Governor General. Because even for calling for elections, electing the Parliament, and then the Parliament elects the President, okay, that process, Electoral College. So that needs somebody, right? That was the Governor General. Now it is the President of India. There is no Governor General. Okay. There is only the President of India. So don't worry. That is how it is now. So when you read all this, don't get confused with all this stuff. Today it is straight away like that. The President of India, and the President of India gives his assent, right? Then the executive, the concerned ministry, whoever it is. See, every law doesn't come from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Then it's, for example, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, Ministry of Home Affairs, the Foreign Exchange Management Act, Ministry of Finance. So it's not as if the Ministry of Corporate Affairs passes all laws, right? Every ministry wants something to be done. They propose a law, and they get the power to do it. And so that is how laws are made in a country. Okay, that ministry will have to then notify that law. Please understand. When the law is published in the official Gazette, we'll go to that part because we were talking about the Gazette, right? The official Gazette. So that law, the bare act, without any notes, etc., is published in the official Gazette of India. If it is a central act, official Gazette of that particular state. If it is a state act, right? So here we are more concerned with central laws. So it should be published in the Gazette of India. Now, if you, as a matter of interest, you can go to the Google and search for Gazette of India. You can download it. It's a public document. You can download it as a citizen of the country. Absolutely boring. Don't even, just for the fun of it, do it. But then don't make it a habit to do that because unless you have a vested interest, unless you are a lawyer, etc., okay. Of course, today you got a lot of, shall we say, service providers who give us, they read the Gazette of India and then push it to us. And so we can have that service also. So as a professional, you can't keep on reading the Gazette. So you can set parameters and then they will verify the Gazette and send you a push. So say, hey, you are interested in this. This got published in the Gazette. Right? Something like that. I'm just giving you ideas. But the Gazette of India is a public document. Okay. So the law gets published there. Does it come into effect? No, sir. At that point in time, no, because in the law, there might be an indication as to notification. It has to be notified, right? The law has to be notified. Okay. The date of notification is when the law comes into effect. In case there is no notification, then the date of publication in the official Gazette. In case there is no publication in the official Gazette, then the date it receives the assent of the President of India. Got it? Don't worry, most ministries will clearly mention it will be notified when it is operative from. So a law may be published in the official Gazette, but the notification or it may come into effect from the date mentioned in the notification. So that is why we have notifications and circulars. So whenever the law is amended, it doesn't take effect immediately. It takes its effect on the date mentioned in the notification as the date on which it will come into effect. Recently, in 2020, there was a huge amendment in the Companies Act. I think I mentioned it to you also. They converted all the imprisonment, it was decriminalized. The Companies Act was decriminalized. Now, those amendments were made, published in the official Gazette, but not notified. Subsequently, they were notified on different dates. Different sections or different amendments, different subsections were notified on different dates. It happens. when the 1999 amendment was made, it was a massive amendment to the Companies Act 1956. It was passed in Parliament, received the assent of the President, published in the official Gazette, but not notified. And it was notified subsequently in bits and pieces because there was a lot of debate going on. So they didn't notify many people said it's going to cause harm and also it's going to cause hardship, give us time. So the law came into effect on different dates. You might want to remember this as a future professional. So whenever you read something in Google, whenever you read some nonsense in the websites, immediately don't believe the websites, etc. Find out when the law was notified. If you go to the MCA website, you will find every section. Below that, you will find amendments are there. The past amendments are also given under each section. There you go and see, and they will, especially if it is a recent amendment, they will give it in red. But when you go down, they will give you clearly notified with the effect from, and they will give the notification of circular name. Okay. So circular is a common term here. Circular is issued, it's a circular, you know all very well. Even in your office, if you want something to be known by a lot of people, by many people are there, and you want to inform them officially. I repeat, there are many people and you want to inform them officially, then you issue a circular. That's all. So circular is a communication received from an authority or a body or a, shall we say, central body to members or to employees. Even your HR department could send circulars to all the employees of a company. Okay, but that will be more contractual. It wouldn't be statutory. But when the government of a country, through its executive, informs its citizens, it will be done through a circular. Those circulars are published in the official Gazette. Some of these circulars could be notifications. Some of these circulars could be notifications. Okay. Sometimes a mere clarification will be there. That will also be coming in a circular. So don't think circular automatically means law. No. A circular could only be a clarification, in which case it's not binding on us. Only an act of parliament or rules and regulations made under that act of parliament, when approved in Lok Sabha, approved in Rajya Sabha, receives the assent of the President, published in the official Gazette, notified. When all this is done, from that day, that law is binding on all of us as citizens of the country. I hope I have clarified this so that you will not have any doubt when you are practicing or when you are working in a company as a financial controller. Never have any doubt. Okay. So we saw official Gazette. Now, enactment. Enactment means act of parliament. Now, what you might want to note here is enactment means whatever, blah, blah. Today, again and again, really, you don't worry about all this Bengal, Madras, Bombay. There is no presidency now. Bengal presidency is not there. Madras presidency is out. Bombay is not there. Now, these are all become states. And some of these states in turn have become, have been divided. So, this is an old law. So, don't try to relate to it today. In fact, for that also, the law provides, in this law, there is a solution for that also. I'll tell you. When some change happens, how it should be read. Okay. That also this law gives the clarity. We'll talk about it later. Point is, when we say enactment, it includes any provision contained in any act or regulation. See, they have not used the word rule. So the minute you say act, you mean section, subsection, rule, sub-rule, regulation, sub-regulation. Though for a rule, we generally use the word subclause, but you can synonymously use it, no problem. But in India, for an act of parliament, we use the word section. We don't use the word clause. The Constitution, it is a clause. The Constitution of India does not have sections. It has clauses, subclauses. Whereas an act of parliament has sections and subsections. Rules, you can say rule, sub-rule. Okay. Though the word clause, C-L-A-U-S-E, clause, is used synonymously for all these. Sometimes if you use the word clause, it is not wrong, but be careful because When you are talking about an act of parliament, it is section, subsection, subsection, whatever you want to say. Rule, sub-rule, for a rule. More about rules a little later, right? And regulations are also there, sub-regulation. Now, an enactment, see, so point is, I need not amend the entire law. I may amend only one subsection, or I may remove one word. Now that has to be notified. That inclusion of that word should be approved in Parliament. This is the problem with the Act of Parliament. Suppose you want to make a change in it, the ministry cannot just like that do it. They have to go through the whole process of amendment through Parliament, right up to the entire 5-step process that I told you has to happen. For just including one and in the section, or removing or and putting and, it means. Which is why, yeah, I'll come to that. About rules, I'll come to this. Okay. Right? The word enactment is a common word. Unlike Central Act, which means only act passed in the Parliament of India, enactment is common. It could include made by the Union Parliament or the state legislature. All are enactments. Act, enactment, all are one and the same. They are all laws. An act of Parliament or an act of the state legislature. Act means to take action. So when the people's representatives decide to act, that's why it's called act. They have decided to do something about it, so they have passed an act. That's why it's called Act of Parliament. I have a feeling this topic should have been taught almost in the early stages, even before company law. But it would become very boring to start with this. So many of the things that you learned in company law now may fall in place. Okay. So whenever there's a repeal, an entire act can be repealed, or only one part of the provision can be repealed. Very shortly, we will see repeal. What is repeal and all that. Rules and regulations are nothing but a species of legislation. The legislature, instead of enacting the same, delegates the power to other person. Whatever is enacted, I have taken the wordings from the institute study material, so pardon the language, that's not mine. Okay, I wouldn't use it like this, but anyway, that doesn't matter. So long as you got the message, I'm happy. Point is simple. The rules and regulations are called delegated legislation. Delegated legislation. What does it mean? Parliament passes the law. The Act of Parliament, which is passed in Parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, President, notification, publication, notification, blah. All the 5 together you need for an Act of Parliament, right? Same thing is not needed for rules. Because the Act of Parliament, any Act of Parliament in the fag end of the law, you will find rule-making power will be given. Almost, to my knowledge, every Act of Parliament has that section. The concerned ministry will be given power to make rules. To make rules as may be prescribed. Whenever, see, in the Companies Act, whenever in a section you found the word, in a section if you find the word, as may be prescribed, that's it. That one phrase means this part of the law is delegated. Thereafter, you need not go to Parliament. The central government concerned ministry can simply make a rule. And in the rule, they can tell whatever they want with regard to that subject. Why is it done? Because the substantive law, see, this is puristic view that has been totally messed up by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and the Parliament, if I may be permitted. Okay, because normally, as we have always understood it, the substantive law passed in the Parliament, blah, blah, notified, tells you what is the law, what to do. As a citizen of the country, in a particular situation, I want to know what I have to do to be law-abiding. The what will be given there. For example, GST is made applicable. GST has to be collected, okay, at 18%. Agreed. How? How do I pay it to you? How do I inform you that I have paid? How do I inform you about the sales that I made every month? All these forms, blah, blah, the rules, that becomes the rules. The substantive law tells me what to do. It charges me. It says you have to do it. Then when I ask the law, How do I do it? It points the finger at the rule. And the rule-making power is delegated to the concerned ministry of the government, whichever government, central government, state government, whatever. Every instrumentality of the state, whether it is central government or state government, is empowered within the framework of the Act to pass rules and regulations. Okay. Now, rules are made by central government. Sometimes you have bodies, slight difference in rules and regulations, slight difference. Rules are made by central government, right? Or ministry, state government, ministry, whatever. Now, today we have so many other bodies which are part of the government, but which are also quasi-judicial or which have special functions and all. Classic example, the Reserve Bank of India, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. I mean, I can give you 100. Now, these people also have the power to make regulations. They don't make rules, they make regulations. Which is why SEBI, the ICDR is a regulation. Okay, it is not a rule. Whereas under the SEBI Act, you have rules. It's a little confusing, I know, but see, the SEBI, under the SEBI Act, the ministry has passed rules. Then the SEBI Act itself authorizes the formation of SEBI with all its powers. Now, SEBI has been empowered to make regulations under the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act, which they have done beautifully for public issues and all that, disclosure issue norms and all that, that you will be studying when you come to final. Under FEMA, the Reserve Bank of India has been given the power to form regulations, whereas the rules are formed by the ministry. Small difference. Because ultimately, SEBI also comes under the ministry. Don't think that SEBI is some independent body. Finally, these fellows are all ministry guys only. But to some extent, they have been given independence. More than independence, these are specialized bodies. They are specialized bodies which are dealing only with that subject. So the idea is that they would know more about it and they would know how to quickly give relief or take action in some cases. That is why these bodies are formed. Okay. So you can see a delegation of a delegation. Nothing wrong. Actually, it's not delegation of delegation because the SEBI Act itself has created SEBI and has given the Parliament has given the power directly to SEBI through the Act. But SEBI cannot make rules. They make only regulations. The central government appropriate ministry makes the rules. Right? This may sound a little boring, but then I thought it's so fundamental to you as a future professional to know this. And it's rightly that our institute has included this law in the intermediate level. Because at this stage, if you learn this, it's useful to you. It's a good foundational knowledge. See, tomorrow you may not use it directly in your practice or in your work. But definitely, you are not being aware would make you sometimes, you will be foundationally, you may not know something. This is a very foundational level knowledge. So we have a question here from Kiran. If definition given under a particular act something and the general clause is something different. Beautiful question, Kiran. Definition given under the General Classes Act and there is a specific definition in that act. Common sense tells me that where there is a specific definition in a law, that will override the General Classes Act. Common sense tells me, but you'll also see this law also tells that. Okay, where a word is defined in that law clearly and unambiguously, or even if it's ambiguously defined, that definition has to be interpreted and understood. You cannot directly say, this is ambiguous, therefore I will adopt General Classes Act. If the word is defined in that law, that specific definition should be applied for that law. No doubt about it. It's common sense and also it's law. Okay. Yes, the worst fellows in misusing the rule-making power are the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Not just that, the Parliament itself is at fault because the power to make rules has been indiscriminately delegated to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Indiscriminately. Certain things should not have been delegated. These fellows have got it. Rightly or wrongly. This is my humble view. That's okay. That is, see, one more thing. We can comment about Parliament, but we cannot disobey Parliament. There's a subtle difference. We can comment about it. As a citizen of a democratic country, I have every right to comment about any law, even after it is passed. Before it is passed, after it is passed. After all, if that right is not there, we can as well live in a dictatorship, right? If I cannot comment about anything, I can comment, but I cannot disobey. I cannot say, I will not. See, that is where Naxalites and Maoists and all, they differ. They say, your law does not apply to me. No. Sometimes, we have to protest the law. That doesn't make you a criminal or a seditionist. But when you say, I will not obey that law, then you are a criminal and you are liable to be punished under sedition law. So that's where the subtle difference. When you catch the mic and talk, now you have to be careful. You cannot say, don't obey that law. You can say that law is wrong. You can point out what injustice the law brings to people. You are entitled to talk about it. If that right is denied, that is the beginning of the end of democracy. Yeah, we'll come to repeal a little later, Hitesh. The word repeal, detailed, we'll be seeing it. Okay, good. I can give you only SEBI and RBI. There are many bodies now. There are many bodies. Maybe the Insolvency Board. I'm sure any body that is established for specific purposes, will be having the power to make regulations. It is not automatic. The power to make regulations should be there in the original act through which this entity came into existence. No entity comes into existence without some law. Some law will give it life. Then that law will also mention you can make regulations for your own on these matters. Then they can do it. Okay. So I think for your level of academic level, if you know that this much, it is a great thing. Anyway, if you still want to know more bodies, go and do some research on Google. Right? More than knowing which are all the bodies, Ayushji, understand the point here. The core principle involved here is Act of Parliament forms a specialized body. That specialized body can be given power to make regulations. The same act will also give power to make rules. Now, rules can be made only by the ministry, by the state or central ministry. Just remember the principle, that is more than enough. Because as I am talking to you, they will create new bodies, old bodies will be sent off. See, the BIFR is there, Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. Now it's not there. Instead, Insolvency Board has come. So don't worry about all that. That is all detailing. Principles are, at this stage, try to understand the principles, which is more important. Okay. So when you come across this is something I keep on telling students and even professionals, I keep telling them. Knowing everything is not a great fun. Okay. And that doesn't make you great. Knowing things in specific situations, using that knowledge to provide a solution is what makes you a professional. Somebody is able to mug up and vomit the entire barrack or law. I'm very happy for that student. I'm very proud of that student. I'm sure she or he will get rank in the final exam, or maybe not, because they may not be able to apply that law to a given specific situation. And applying common sense again. Some people are so good at it. They will know by heart, they will quote, even they will correct me in the class and all. I'll be shocked at such students about their brilliance. But I would only humbly suggest to that student, all this knowledge is, possessing that knowledge is of no use. Applied knowledge is the knowledge. Possessed knowledge is like having 1 crore currency note in my locker. What is the use of all that? That money has to be pushed into the system. It should start earning for me. Used knowledge, applied knowledge. So, ability to apply. This has nothing to do with specifically to Ayush's question, but arising from that question and being the last session, when I may come before you, I thought I will make this point. A lot of students are good at mugging up. Even my memory is pretty good. I can remember a lot of stuff, but I will not waste my time remembering things that I don't need, especially in terms of professional knowledge. Yes, I remember Shakespeare, I remember Milton, Bharadiyar, Kamban. That's different. That's for my own pleasure and enjoyment. Hey, I don't know how to mug up and remember all the acts of Parliament. No need. After all, today everything is available on Google. What I need to know is the map. So if in this situation, which section will apply? which combination of sections should I look at? See, this is another thing that many people miss out on, especially when you read the Act sequentially. When you read the Act sequentially, what happens? You don't understand that many of these sections are interlinked with each other and cannot, see, that is not the way you should study, in my humble view. That is not the way my guru used to teach us. He used to teach linked provisions will be taught together, though they may come in different places. So the unfortunate wrong approach is starting with section 1 and going on to the last. No. Which is why I have done this here. Can you see? Financial year is defined in section 321. If you can remember. Remember, the word financial year means the year commencing on the first day of April. Now, this first day of April as the financial year is as old as India. Okay, is as old as India. But the uniform financial year concept came very recently, 90s. Earlier, under the Income Tax Act, you could have, a person could have different financial year for filing return. For different sources of income, he could have different years, all sorts of nonsense. Finally, they said uniform financial year. Uniform financial year means everybody has to follow the financial year beginning on the 1st of April, ending on the 31st day of March, right? 365 days, 12 months, 52 weeks. Beginning on 1st April, ending on 31st March. So, on the other hand, year under 3 subsection 66, year shall mean a year reckoned according to the British calendar. See, why don't they amend this? At least I don't know, because how do you know what the British calendar is? But I will tell you, the British calendar begins on the 1st of January. Okay, so year means calendar year, which starts from January and ends in December. Okay, so 1st of January, calendar year. So calendar year starts on 1st day of January. Financial year in India starts 1st day of April. See, in the US, it starts on the 1st day of July. The financial year starts on the 1st day of July and ends on the 30th of June. For your information, like that, many countries, but mostly Europe and England, their financial year itself begins on the 1st day of January and ends on 31st of December. Which is why if you have a foreign holding company, that holding company may have a different financial year in its country. That's why we have to prepare 2 sets of accounts, 2 audits. Well, that's a good thing actually, because when a company does that, I love that company, because we'll be doing a finalization every 6 months. Of course, 12 months, but on 30th June, I will do one for, on 31st December, I will do one for 1/1 to 31/12. Then again on 31st March, I will do one for 1/4 to 31/3. And this will keep on going. Of course, the audit I don't have to do 2 times, but the finalization happens 2 times, because we have to represent everything for them, consolidate and all. Okay. So financial year in India is beginning on the 1st day of April. So in any act, if you find the word YEAR, year, sirf year, then you have to understand it means the year under British calendar. Similarly, month shall mean a month reckoned according to the British calendar. They make it very clearly, because, see, in India, we have our own calendar. I don't know if you know this. I'm sure many of you, even in Islam, we have that lunar calendar. In Hinduism also, we have the lunar calendar. Strictly speaking, for a Hindu, the calendar is the lunar calendar. It begins on new moon day. New moon to new moon. Amavasa to Amavasa. Okay. Then the moon wanes and the moon waxes. So the moon wanes, Amavasa, then again becomes Purnami, then Purnima to Amavasa. 15, 30 days, roughly it will come. And the moon spends time in every constellation through the 30 days. The moon spends time in almost 2.5 days. It spends in one constellation, a Rasi, and it keeps moving. One whole month it completes and comes back to Mesha. Then again it goes out. Mesha, Meena. It keeps going around. That it's not 30 days necessarily. See, the British have conveniently divided 365 and given us 30s and 31 and 28. But our lunar calendar, not necessarily. It has a different tempo altogether. And once upon a time in India, this is how time was reckoned. Dates were reckoned. So Tithi was there. So the first day after Purnima or Amavasa becomes Prathama, then Dvitiya, then Tritiya, so on to Chaturdasi, 14th day. After the Amavasa becomes Chaturdasi, then Paurnami. Then again you begin Prathama and then you go. So 2 cycles of 15 days, Chaturdasi to Purnima. Okay, and then you keep track. That becomes the Tithi. Within the Tithi, you find out where the moon is and you know which star it is, then you know which constellation it is in. Now all this made, don't think that this is about astrology. No way. Our ancient Indian kings fixed deadlines based on this. They will, in fact, this may sound a little unnecessary to you, but please go and do a little more research into your own ancient heritage, that we had our own very clearly marked calendar. But then, once the British came, they said the month shall mean a month reckoned according to the British calendar. We'll follow it. So if today's class, I cannot say it was on, next class will be on the Purnima, or it will be on the Ditiya, or it will be on Tritiya. Like that, I cannot say. I have to say clearly which day of the month, the English calendar or British calendar month. Right? Why do you say British calendar instead of English calendar? Because Britain is again like us. Britain, the mainly English-speaking parts of the island, with Wales, okay, with parts of Scotland and Ireland, parts of Ireland, okay. The Irish do not speak English. The Welsh do not speak English. The Welsh have their own language, Welsh. Irish speak Irish. The Scots speak a type of English which is Scots, okay, Scottish. But no, when the English said this is all together, English became the common language, and which is a cause of concern in Ireland. One of the major problems in Ireland is language. They don't want to speak English. See, we might think for us, all of them are foreigners. We think, Irishman. How will you know a difference between an Irish and a Scottish and a Welsh and a normal Englishman? Okay, there are differences. Okay, for your information. But then some parts, see, like some of us in South part, we adopted Hindi. Some people in Ireland and some people in Wales, they said, chalo, if I want to get on in my life, I'll speak the dirty language called English. And they started converting to English, and including the great Winston Churchill was an Irishman. Okay, he was an Irishman, not an Englishman. He was an Irishman, but of course a Britisher. Okay, for your information. Oscar Wilde was an Irishman. Okay, some of the great people who wrote great books in English were of Irish origin. Anyway, so I know some of what I am telling you may absolutely be not relevant to you and may even be Greek and Latin, but then, okay, good. So moving on, good faith. You remember, whenever I said I will be talking about it here, this word good faith is defined here. A thing shall be deemed to be done in good faith, where it is in fact done honestly, whether it is done negligently or not. So what seemed to be important here is my intention. My intention, right? My intention. Now, I have done this many times, in parties and all that, where somebody will want a drink or something, and then I'll go there, but I'm so, I'm sometimes, I am not very, I keep stumbling and I drop things and all that. I'm very awkward. So I bring the drink, and sometimes, a cranberry juice, you bring them, and then because I'm very awkward, I'll slip and I'll fall and it pours on their white shirt. Now, but my intention was to give them the drink, yeah. I did it honestly with intention to help. But what I did was not a help at all. It became a nuisance for that fellow. But what to do? He will say, okay, Mr. Srikanth, that's okay. Perfect. I'll keep on profusely apologizing. I'm so sorry. But suppose my intention was to pour the drink on him. So while coming near him, I acted as if I'm stumbling. And then I poured it on him. Okay, no. I'm also perfectly capable of doing that. So people sometimes really don't know whether I did it intentionally or in good faith. You got the point? So when my intention is honestly to provide them with a drink, and to help them, then even though there is some problem, they cannot blame me because I did it in good faith. But then, whether I did it in good faith or not is a question of what is in my mind, which is why it's very difficult. Intentions have to be, but then the law tries to clearly say what is done. But sometimes the circumstances surrounding the situation may be such that nobody will say that you have not done it in good faith. See, you have to do something with due care and attention, which is not mala fide. See, I'm giving the example of me bringing a drink to a friend in a party, or not obviously a friend in a party. But the point here is, what was my intention? And did I take due care? See, while walking, I should ensure that I look and come carefully. But suppose I'm coming carefully, but somebody else bangs on me, or there is something there which is not normally seen by people. Maybe it's a little colorless, and then I didn't see it and I stumbled on it. Then it is good faith. But suppose a care is not taken which an ordinary person would take. You keep on going back to that, no? The same care that a person of ordinary prudence would take. The care that a person of ordinary prudence would take. Then it is in good faith. Suppose that care is not taken, that is not due care. And the intention should be bona fide and not mala fide. Mala fide means with bad intention, intention to cause harm. Bona fide means good intention, intention to help, or intention to genuinely enter into a transaction. Bona fide. Okay. So in good faith. So the term good faith has been defined differently in different enactments. Please understand. Where already the question was asked, now this is slightly answered here. Where an enactment contains a special definition of the term good faith, then that definition has to be followed. This is true for all definitions. Where there is, in fact, in the first class itself, I told you, look for a definition in the explanation or in the chapter. Look for a definition in section 2. If nowhere you find a definition, then and only then can you go to the General Clauses Act. I repeat this. Okay, I mentioned it earlier. Now I am again telling you. And again, such definition of good faith can be applied only if there is nothing repugnant or wrongful in the subject or context. So you cannot blindly say definition in the General Clauses Act will come. Contextually, there may be some situations where more care has to be taken. See, I'll tell you, when you're dealing with children below the age, persons who are underage, when you're dealing with them, the care that has to be taken cannot be the same care that you will apply to grown-up people, adults. With an adult, you can use certain words, you can use certain expressions, you can use certain approaches. Cannot be used with children. You cannot say, hey, this is what normally people will tell. Not to a child, So there it becomes repugnant in subject or context. How you can talk to a child, what you can tell a child, okay, or how you can explain things to a child would be totally different from the way you explain to an adult. So in those contexts, you cannot blindly say, I use the same. Normally, this is what people would say. I said it. You can't. You have to be extra careful. I'm just giving you one example of children, underage. Persons who are underage. I use the term very carefully. Because sometimes, a 13-year-old person, a 14-year-old, or even a 17-and-a-half-year-old person cannot be called a child. But he is not an adult or she is not an adult yet. Very dangerous part of their life. 16 to 17 and a half, till they reach 18. 18, what happens? Magic. 18, suddenly they have got complete knowledge of the world. They know everything. They become major. Check it out. When you became 18, if that's what happened, you went to bed at 12 midnight, next day your birthday, midnight. I know everything. Mommy, I'm now major. I know everything. I don't think anybody said that. Growing up is a long-term process. Okay, but then the law artificially cuts the line and says 18 onwards, expected to know, expected to take care of their own life. Like that. Nothing wrong. But at 18, nothing new happened to me. I still was the same, sort of confused and individual that I was at 17 years and 364 days. Okay. At the end of the 17th year, at the end of the 18th year, nothing happened to me. I was the same confused individual, same immature fellow that I was one day before. It took me a longer time to become truly mature, right? For all of us. But then, so I'm just giving you these examples to help you understand. But on the other hand, I can also tell you this. There are children who are more matured. So it's, I don't know, maturity happens along with me. People like me take a long time to become matured. But my granddaughter and all, my daughter for that matter, highly matured. At the age of 13, 14, she was highly clear on what she was doing, talking and all that. So it depends totally on thing. And I still remain confused. Okay. Maybe being confused is a part of what I am. And I like to be confused because that fuzzy logic is always good. If you're so clear about things, no, you make a mistake. When you're unclear, you're having the option to come out and avoid making that mistake. Anyway. So this good faith is a very interesting part. Chance of coming in the exam also, so better you know it. Okay. Good faith is generally understood in the civil law. Take a practical guide in understanding the expression of the contract. See, nothing is said to be done in good faith which is done without due care and attention, as is expected with the man of, or man includes woman, we'll see that later, okay? Man of ordinary prudence, right? Ordinary. What is this man of ordinary prudence? God only knows, but anyway. See, recently I'm reading a book by an Irish author, which is possibly why I'm speaking about Ireland so much. And the protagonist, he loses his purse in a public place, in a place where, everybody is there. Thieves could be there in a supermarket. This guy takes out his wallet with a lot of money in it. Now, is that something that a man of ordinary prudence would do? So obviously, the minute he takes the purse out, some villain comes and takes the purse and runs away. And that's how the story continues. Point, The Dregs of the Day. It's a beautiful novel, okay, by Kane. Beautiful novel. But the point is, will a man of ordinary prudence do this? So what is due care and attention would differ from situation to situation. So let us look at one or two examples to help us understand. A honest purchase made carelessly without making proper inquiries cannot be said to have been made in good faith so as to convey good title. Friends, relate this to the Negotiable Instruments Act. Relate this to the Negotiable Instruments Act. Who is the holder in due course? Sorry to see, this is unfortunately the way I do. Sometimes I'll jump topics. Then you might get angry with me and you can even say, sir, you're teaching General Classes Act, sir. Please do not come bring negotiable instruments like that. If you say, then sorry. Okay. But who is the holder in due course? Any person who obtains the instrument in good faith for consideration without knowledge of the defect in title of the endorser or dryer. Endorser, not dryer, endorser. He is not aware without knowledge in good faith for consideration, then that person becomes a holder in due course. The holder in due course cleans the instrument. Subsequently, from him, whoever gets the instrument gets it clean. Okay? You know better than me about holder in due course. But the word in good faith is very important. See, known criminal, known fraud, suppose that fellow is endorsing or is giving you an instrument, it cannot be in good faith. Because you know very well that fellow is a fraud. Some things, forger, he's a regular check forger. That fellow is giving you a check. You have to be very careful. You have to make double inquiry before you accept. Yeah. So its holder in due course should obtain the instrument for consideration. He should be a holder, first of all. He should be in possession of the instrument. He should be a holder and he should have obtained it for consideration in good faith without knowledge of the defect in title of the prior party. Okay. Very good, Pooja. That's so great. When you turned 18, you applied for bank account, voter ID, PAN number. Wow. In fact, my bank account was opened when I was a minor by my father. 1970, I think, 1978, my bank account was opened with Canara Bank. I still have that account. One of the oldest accounts in that branch. Useless bank. But that I am not closing that account because of sentimental reasons. Okay, beautiful. Moving on. Here's a question asked in the exam. See, what do you understand by the term good faith? This is the answer. Okay, this is the answer. Nowadays, you won't get such blatantly straightforward theory questions. Never. Okay. Mr. X purchased a watch from Mr. Y carelessly without proper inquiry. I think what is important here is carelessly without proper inquiry. That's all. If you stress that point, you'll get it is not in good faith. An honest purchase made carelessly without making proper inquiries. Now, the next question is a little more interesting. Mrs. K went to a jewelry shop to purchase diamond ornaments. The owners of the jewelry shop are notorious and indulging in smuggling activities. Now, that line becomes very important. What is the meaning of the word notorious? Actually, the word famous is positive. He is a famous man. That means people know him, everybody knows him, but for good reasons. A famous man is known for good reasons. Am I correct? You know these people for good reason. He has maybe achieved something in his life. See, who All India rank first rank holder. You know him, he is a famous for good reason. But notorious person is one who is famous for the wrong reason. He is well known. He is known to a lot of people, known to the whole world for wrong reason. Notorious. Okay. Known smuggler. Known criminal. Possibly gone to jail 2 times now. So that jewelry shop is engaging in smuggling activities. So possibly they are also receiving stolen goods. They are acting as a fence. Okay. If you remember, sale by non-owner, you have to be very careful. Okay. So when you receive goods, the jeweler receives goods or pawnee receives goods, you have to be very clear. Is this your own or is it somebody else's? You have to make due inquiry. These fellows don't bother. They take smuggled goods and all. So when Mrs. K purchased diamond ornaments, honestly, without making proper inquiry. See, the problem is Mrs. K went to the shop. She honestly believed, hey, this is the shop I will buy. But these people are notorious. She should have known it. Without knowing that, she has. So she did it. So the correct word is, she did it carelessly without proper inquiry. Therefore, it's the purchase by, so she will not convey good title. I'll give a simple example. Suppose stolen jewelry is being sold to these jewelry shop. These guys are getting it. So obviously, when somebody is stealing jewelry, they will go to these fellows, the fences, and they will sell it, right? And obviously at half the price. And these jewelers will take it. They will, the gold jewelry they will take. They will melt it and make fresh jewelry and give it. Mrs. K has purchased possibly one such. But later on, police inquiry happens and they are able to trace the stock records and clearly show that the stolen gold became this jewelry. It is all tracked. So the police come to her and say, Madam, your jewelry is stolen. Please give it back. She has to return it back. Okay? Because, to the true owner. Then she can sue the jewelry shop. That is what civil thing. Immediately she has to surrender that jewelry back because it is stolen property. Right? So she will not get good title. So what do I learn from this? Even if I am acting in good faith, I should exercise due care. Care and attention as is expected from a person of ordinary prudence. You will notice that I substituted the word person for man. Kindly make it a point to use gender sensitive or gender neutral words. In future, make it a habit. Don't use words that are gender insensitive. Women and men today are equal in the workplace, at home, wherever. Give that, make it known by the way you speak. as far as possible, try to use words which are neutral in gender rather than male chauvinistic or patriarchal concepts. Government securities means securities issued by central government or state government, etc., etc. Okay. But government of any Part B state, they have given. Don't break your head. There is no Part B state, yeah. Now, where is the Part B state? All these I showed you, now. All these Travancore, Patiala, they're all now part of Punjab, Kerala, like that. Okay. So, no, or some parts of Travancore are in Tamil Nadu. Nagarcoil is in Tamil Nadu, which is originally part of Travancore. Kanyakumari, Kollam in Kerala. All of them are part of Travancore, once upon a time. Okay. Today, no. Mysore, part of Karnataka. Mysore was once upon a time a separate princely state. Okay. Beautiful. Moving on. Excellent. If she makes proper inquiry, Hitesh, that's a good one. If she makes proper inquiry, then she will not buy. Okay, that's a good question, but if she makes proper inquiry, then it should be in good faith. If you have made proper inquiry, you will not buy. Because these fellows are notorious and indulging in smuggling activities. And how will she prove that she made proper inquiries? Okay, extraordinarily what she should do, no? She can try to take a certificate from that person that it is done or not out of some. But if she's going to go, even then it will be dangerous. Because better not. Okay. Good question, but Hitesh, that shows your intelligence. I appreciate it. But see, as a member of our institute, please do not use your intelligence for doing not wrong things, by supporting people in doing wrong things. And don't take, not you, Hitesh. This is not for you, Hitesh. This is for all the students listening to me. Sometimes even the senior members try to create the impression that income tax, misinterpreting the Income Tax Act, playing games with the Act is some sort of a great achievement of a chartered accountant. As if, your entire greatness is in helping a client to circumvent the law, which this also means the clients have started expecting this from auditors. That when you go to a client, he expects you, tell me something so that I don't pay the tax. No, that is not our role. Please do not define our role as helping the client to avoid the tax. And for that, giving him some elaborate schemes and all that, which ultimately end up in disaster. Within the framework of the law, if you are able to give him a solution, good. Maybe if you are able to do an interpretation there, advise him on the risk involved, and then file a return, we can go on an appeal, win the appeal or not, go up to Supreme Court. No problem. I'm not against that. But where it is obviously there, you try to do something which is wrong, then try to go on appeal, win. So many such appeals have failed. At 5 levels, I have seen it fail. For example, one of my clients received an income. He withdrew a suit. And based on that, the suit was withdrawn by him. And based on that, they gave him a compensation, clearly chargeable to tax. But simply he got some opinion from some firm and all that. They were giving some nonsense, 75 pages of nonsense. I told the client in no uncertain terms, I told him, boss, because I was the man filing the return for him. He got a second opinion from some big firm, I don't want to mention. And he sent it to me and said, Srikanth, see, they have told it's not taxable. I went through it and it was absolute unadulterated bullshit. I told him they're giving you case laws that have no relevance to you. It looks 78 pages, you paid 2 lakhs for that document. It is bullshit document you got. He was totally trusting me. But in this one case, he said, Srikanth, in this one case, you do what I say. I said, chalo boss, I will do it. And I filed the return claiming this as capital receipt, and the matter goes to hearing. Then it gets taken up in 147. Then in 147, I only appeared. I gave this bullshit document I gave to the AO. AO went through it and then he looked at me and said, Mr. Srikanth, you are the counsel representing the case. Are you supporting this view? I said, look here, sir, I am representing my client. I 100% support this view as of today. You give your opposite view. Then that AO passed an order, 35 pages order, He did research and showed every case law he defeated, and he said this amount is taxable, and he passed the law, the order. Matter goes to CIT appeals, losing. All leading advocates are hired to argue. Then High Court, it goes to tribunal, loses. It goes to High Court, loses. Now pending in High Court. Appeal by the assessee, not by the department. 2 levels it has lost. But later, on another occasion, when I was taken by him to brief the High Court advocate, another very leading advocate in Chennai, and that advocate tried to act as if I had not protected the case in the hearing and all. I said, look here, Baba, see, these are the representations I have given. Whatever bullshit these guys have told, I have represented to the department. It's not as if I have told it is taxable. Blah, blah. Now, finally, the matter is no pending. Point is, the tax amount was very small, 1 crore. For 1 crore, it was very small. Yeah. For 1 crore, it is nothing. He could have paid it. The amount of expenses he has incurred and the interest accumulated, penalty today, it is more than 1 crore. 2 times more than 1 crore. I know this is an elaborate and unnecessary story. Some of you may even, like Swati, may feel I am telling useless things. But be careful is all I am trying to say. When the law is clear and unambiguous, obey it. You will only end up getting into trouble later. You're only postponing the trouble. Exactly. He could have paid. Finally, you won't believe, after the discussion with the advocate, my car had gone to pick up my wife. So the car was not there. So I told him, hey boss, you just dropped me in my club. He said, come on, please. And we were going in his car. When in private, he told me, Srikanth, I wish I had paid the tax when you told me to pay it. I wish I had paid the tax when you told me. That was long ago. Okay. I am telling this not to boast about myself or something. As a senior practitioner, I am telling you something very practical. Sometimes advise the client to pay the tax when it is clear. Don't, for your sake or for somebody else's sake, don't take him all the way up. That is not correct. That is not honest. Okay. So don't do that. Make your clients honest. If there is a slightest loophole, slightest ambiguity, and you feel that you have a strong chance, go on appeal. I am the first man. I have gone on appeal. I have won. But if I go on appeal, I have to give my client at least 80% chance of success. If I cannot give him 60 to 80% chance of success. If I cannot give him, I'll say no. Don't go. But since I have started on this topic and you are all not just the students of law, but students of the institute, today the government is also playing games. You see, they bought a scheme called VSVS, okay, Vivad Se Vishwad scheme, Vivad Se Vishwad. So they said anybody who filed an appeal, we'll maaf karo, we'll do it, we'll give the pardon, and we will allow them to write off the penalty and interest, and only the tax will have to be paid by them. Whatever appeal matter, even if the case was weak, which means then now, you're giving a criminal mindset to me. I will keep on doing wrong things. When the department passes an order, I'll go on appeal, keep the appeal pending, till once in 6 years, you're going to come out with VSVS scheme. I will go through it. So this belief is given to the citizens through these schemes. This is the second time, third time that such a scheme has come, where people who are in appeal getting benefit, whereas the guy who honestly paid the tax becomes a fool. Not trying to confuse you, I'm trying to show you the ambiguity, which is why off late, after that VSVS scheme, even if there's a slightest loophole ambiguity, I tell the client, take advantage. If the order is passed, go on appeals, keep the appeal pending, keep delaying, keep on waiting. Next VSVS scheme, we'll escape you. It becomes like that. But the slightest loophole should be there. Okay. But even if the fellow has disobeyed the law under VSVS, even concealment under VSVS would have avoided penalty. Income would have been concealed. He would simply have to pay the tax and go. So that way it was a fantastic scheme. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm going beyond the brief as far as this subject is concerned. But then this particular topic is an overall topic and you need to be really familiar. Okay, we move on to another definition, which is that of immovable property, which is land, benefits to arise out of land, things attached to the earth, permanently fastened to anything attached to the earth. That is, it should not be capable of being removed from the earth. Okay. So, for example, house, foundation is there now. It is permanently, it is attached to that earth. Okay. Whereas they are saying a tree is not attached to the earth because it can be uprooted. Now, this is an inclusive definition. Now, the word immovable property is defined here. It can be defined elsewhere. If it is defined elsewhere in that act, that will be applicable, not this. But if a word immovable property is used and you don't know what it means, how to interpret it, then you can go for this definition. Okay. Where in any enactment, the definition of immovable property is in the negative and not exhaustive. The definition as given in the General Clauses Act will apply to the expression given in that enactment. Only where it is negative and not exhaustive. Where it clearly defines it, then use that definition. Where it is negative, then you can use this definition. See, here's a thing. X owned a land with tamarind trees. He sold his land and the timber, that is the wood obtained after cutting the 50 trees, to Y. Now, whether the sale of timber is amounting to sale of immovable property. Okay. So, since timber is not attached, therefore they say it is not immovable property. Movable property shall mean property of every description except immovable property. Suppose a law defines immovable property as that which is not movable property, that will become a negative definition. There, since you are not clear, you can come to immovable property definition. Okay. Movable property shall mean property of every description except immovable property. So if it comes under immovable property, then it is not movable property. Okay. So debt, you call it, debts are also known as actionable claims. For example, A owes money to B. Now, that debt is a movable property belonging to B. B can sell it, assign it. Actually, you don't sell a debt, you assign a debt. Okay. That is how factoring works, yeah. Whenever I go for a factoring arrangement, I sell my debt to the factor and the factor pays me, obviously with a discount. Then the factor collects the debt. But it's basically an assignment or a sale of a movable property like that. Shares are movable property. We already saw that. Electricity is a movable property. Okay, don't worry. It is movable property. You cannot touch it. Huh? Don't go and, because it's movable property, I will touch it and all. You cannot. But it is mobile. Why it is mobile? Because it is not immovable. That's all. Because it does not come under the definition of immovable, it becomes movable. Okay. I think this is fairly clear. I'm not going to waste your time here. Offense means any act or omission made punishable by any law for the time being in force. Somebody even asked me a question in the earlier class. What is offense? Any act or omission which is punishable under any law. Okay. If it is punishable, it is called an offense. Imprisonment is of two types. The concept here is very simple. Under the Indian Penal Code, you have rigorous imprisonment and you have simple imprisonment. Okay. The word imprisonment includes both imprisonment of either description as defined in the Indian Penal Code. Okay. The court has the discretion to decide whether it is rigorous or simple. Simple imprisonment is when he is kept in a place without any thing. He cannot go anywhere. He has to stay there only. And maybe he will be allowed to come out for exercise, etc. But otherwise he has to. Rigorous is where he has to work. They'll be given work, etc. And it won't be comfortable. Rigorous imprisonment is known as RI. Rigorous imprisonment. RI. Many times, police and court language, they'll simply say 2 years RI. That means rigorous imprisonment. This will obviously, rigorous imprisonment will be made applicable to heinous crimes. Murder, like that. Where the person should be made to suffer, made an example. See, prison should not be so comfortable that people want to go and stay there. Okay, it should be so tough that people should not want to go there. Yesterday, one student, day before yesterday, sent a query about representative and all. One thing was, he said, if I take a loan and I fail to pay, will my mother become representative? I gave an answer. But my humble suggestion, as a future member of our institute, Please do not commit. Please be an exemplary person for the world. If you do something wrong, imagine the institute will get a bad name. So pay your dues, pay your debts on time, well in time, don't delay like that. Don't borrow beyond your limits. If you cannot repay it, don't borrow like that. Please. If you follow that, then as a person, as a member of our institute, you will be a good. As a member of our institute, please remember this. Okay? Once you become a member of our institute, you have some special responsibilities. See, the word person is defined here inclusively. Person is defined in many enactments. Person is defined in Companies Act, in Income Tax Act. Wherever it is defined in that act, that definition will apply. If there is no definition, then you can come here. Any company or association or body of individuals, whether incorporated or not. Person shall include. This means individuals are already there. It's not as if individuals are not here. Individual, you and I, natural persons are already person. In addition to that, it will include company, association, body of individuals, etc. Okay. Registered means registered under any law. Okay. Rule, we have already discussed it in detail. Rule in exercise of a power conferred under any enactment and shall include a regulation made as a rule under any enactment. It will include a regulation made as a rule under any enactment. I already explained to you what is a rule, what is a regulation, etc., etc. Okay. So rule includes the regulation. I told you also when it will be rule, when it will be regulation. I hope you remember what I said. See, sometimes what I'm telling may sound a little unnecessary, but within all that, I'm also giving you the subject, right? Of course, that is the way I teach. It's not as if I'm not like other teachers, even normal teachers who only stick to the subject. They don't go beyond that. They tell you, I'm sorry, that's not the way I taught. Right from 1992, my lectures have been lectures, whereas conversations between the teacher and student in a vibrant atmosphere where the purpose is not just to help the student to pass an examination. Going beyond, passing the examination is obviously there, but going beyond that to making the student completely aware of what it is all about and what the subject is all about and putting it in context for the student rather than simply giving him bits and pieces of knowledge to enable him to clear the exam and then, sort of whatever. Sirf kaam ke liye. No. The way I teach is not that. Sorry. That's the way I've been. And students have liked my classes. It's not as if but some students get angry with me because don't waste my time. I gave you money. Give me back. It's a bargain between some people, they have a bargaining mindset. I paid you money. Teach me. Don't waste my time like that. Cannot be done. Education, especially in our Guru Sishya Parampara, can never become a contract. It has never become a contract. It can never become a trade, bargain. People who try to do this, they mean themselves more than the teacher. Schedule, I'm sure you've heard of it. Every act, or most acts have schedules. So when the word schedule is used, it means a schedule to the act or regulation in which the word occurs. Okay. See, sometimes we might want to give a list of things or something special thing. Mostly it will be a list of things or forms, formats and all. That will be kept in the schedule and referred. For example, the format of the balance sheet is a schedule 3, right? The format of the balance sheet in the income statement is a schedule in the Companies Act. It's called schedule. Section, I think I don't want to waste your time on the subsection. Writing means printing, lithography, photography, and other modes of representing or reproducing words in visible forms. Words in visible forms. Okay. So that's writing. As against printing, but it includes printing. So you might put words in visible forms in any manner. Even shall we say, signboard, digital signboard is a writing because you are representing words in visible form, right? Right. We also saw document, right? Go back. So now we have finished definition, which is one of the major chunk of this law. Some definitions will apply to all Indian laws. Please understand, General Clauses Act applies only to Central Act. But some definitions in Section 3 are applicable unless there is anything repugnant in the subject or context to all Indian laws, including state laws. For example, the word Central Act, Central Government, Gazette, Government, Government Securities, Indian Law, Official Gazette. These are the definitions are applicable to all Indian laws. Right? The word government especially. But then, when the word government is used, which government will apply will depend on context. In any Indian law, references by whatever form of words to revenues of the central government or of any state government shall, on and from the first day of April 1950, be construed as references to the Consolidated Fund of India or the Consolidated Fund of the state. Okay. See, every state has the Consolidated Fund. All revenues. The central government also has a Central Consolidated Fund of India, and each state has a Consolidated Fund. All revenues collected goes into the Consolidated Fund. From there, it is used for various plan expenditures and other expenses. That is part of how government is run. We are now going to see coming into operation of an enactment, Section 5. Okay. Where any central act has not specifically mentioned a particular date to come into force. See, usually in Section 1, they will give the name, short title, extent of operation, and also when it will come into force. Usually, you just check up any law, they will say, the act will come into force on such dates as the central government or the government may notify from time to time. That's all. Thereby, they are clearly saying, as of now, it is not notified. When the central government gives a circular notifying it, that date it will come into force. So that is called notification. But some laws may contain the date there and then. This law will come into force on the first day of April. Companies Act you will find. This day, on the first day of April 1956. So it will come into force on that day. But nowadays they don't do that. They give the power to central government to notify. So central government may notify some section, some subsection, like that. So when there is no date specifically mentioned, then it shall be implemented or come into operation on the day on which it receives the assent of the Governor General. Okay. Now, obviously, there is no Governor General. So from 1950 onwards, it is the President. Okay. Now, this is something interesting. Retrospectivity. Retrospectivity. There are two words like prospective, retrospective. Prospective means in future. Prospectively means it will happen in future. Retrospectively means with effect from the past. Now, whatever you are doing today can have effect on future. Can you go do something now to change the past? Very difficult. But Parliament has that right and power. They can say the law has been amended, and it is as if the amended law was always the law. That is called retrospective amendment, where the amendment says the amendment will come into force today, but it shall be construed as if this was the law right from the beginning. This is called retrospective amendment. It is not illegal. Parliament is empowered to pass laws with retrospective effect, because Parliament may discover something is going wrong. Okay, and then they might say, oh my God, that is the problem is this law. So they can say this will operate retrospectively. But retrospectivity should be very carefully done. Why? Because, see, if the law says something, I read it, it is unambiguous, clear and unambiguous. I read it, I obey it. Now, by obeying that law, I have put myself in a position where I might have incurred expenditure or I might have done something that is, affecting me as a person, believing that this is the law. Now, the Parliament amends the law and says, this is the new law, and this new law will be applicable with retrospective effect. It is as if this amendment was there right from the beginning. Now, hey, believing you, I did so many things. Now you can't come back and say, what I did. You tell me tomorrow I cannot do it, I can understand. Now you are telling me, yesterday what I did was wrong. And you are telling it today. Think about it. But once in a while it is allowed. Where the law has been unnecessarily misused, etc., they can do that. But all laws which affect substantive vested rights generally operate prospectively. And there is a presumption against their retrospectivity. So, when a law is passed in Parliament, automatically it will have only prospective effect. From the day it is notified, it will have effect. Okay? But before that, you cannot take it back and say, hey, the law has been amended. Unless there are express words giving retrospective effect, or where the language used necessarily implies that such retrospective operation is intended. What said during the recently, very recently, maybe you might not have been in college at that time also, but I don't know. Some of you might have been there, but there was this famous Vodafone case where Vodafone sold shares. Okay, the shares of Vodafone were sold by a remote subsidiary, a holding company, and whether that capital gain would be taxable in India and all that. Very complicated. I'm sure in income tax you are studying it. When you're studying section 9, I'm sure you will be studying Vodafone case, because Vodafone case goes to Supreme Court and the Supreme Court clearly passes an order saying there is no liability because the law does not provide for it. The shares being sold are in a foreign company. Okay, how can you tax it? You can't tax it in India. If it is shares in an Indian company, you can tax it. I'm making it very simple for you, but it's very complicated. I'm oversimplifying it for you, but the point is simple. Two foreign companies are selling shares in a foreign company. It so happens that company is the holding company of the Indian company, remote holding. The two chain holdings are there through Cayman Islands, through this, that, and all. It's a complicated structure, but what it is, the shares sold belong to a foreign company, are being sold by one foreign company to another foreign company. How can I tax it in India? How can you tax it? You have no right to tax it. That's what they said, and it's over. Vodafone happy? Enjoy? No, don't break the champagne yet, because the law was amended. Section 9 was amended and said if any share derives value from an asset in India, the Indian government has the right to tax it. Okay. Even then Vodafone was happy. They said, okay, chalo, in future that's how it's going to be. But in our case, how can it apply? Because at that time the law was different. The Parliament said, no, sir, we are making this amendment retrospectively so that it applies to you. Now, this was seen as not a good thing, but then not a good thing for one reason. That is, when foreign companies come to India, they expect that the law will be what the law they see will be what they will obey. And there are many foreign companies, when they come to India, take a total legal opinion from especially from a legal firm or from an auditor like us. They ask us to give. So we give them the law as it is. Now, based on that, they have done things. Now, suddenly they find that the law is amended retrospectively. Now, of course, they can't come and jump on me. They get, Srikanth, you should have told me. I said, boss, I'm only a chartered accountant. I'm not a vision. I can't have a future vision of what happened. Today I can tell you what the law is. Tomorrow I cannot. Which is why in many of my opinions, I put that clause now. All the above views are the law as it is applicable today. And there could be retrospective amendments where the law could be changed retrospectively. Okay, but normally, if nothing is mentioned in the Act, amendment will be prospective, or any change in the law or any new law will apply only prospectively. But if wanted to apply retrospectively, they can. The way Section 9 was made retrospective. It's applicable to earlier year also. And they also amended 147 by which they gave themselves power to go back 16 years and 14 years and reopen the case. Okay. So, and bring it to tax again. So, now, whether that was right or wrong, it's a bigger debate. I don't want to go there at all. I'm just highlighting Vodafone as an example to you of retrospectivity, where intentionally they made it retrospective. There are cases where they have made it retrospective, especially when there is a loss of revenue to the state, they might make it retrospective. Okay. But when personal freedoms are involved, you cannot make it retrospective. For example, in the state of, in most states in India, smoking in public places is, I think it's applicable to all the entire India. I don't know whether it's state level. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not clear. But I think in the state of Tamil Nadu, you cannot smoke in a public place. Yeah. So the amendment comes once the law is passed, or the regulation is passed, or the rule is made. From that day onwards, smoking in public is criminal offense, punishable offense. You cannot say it was always an offense. Then what happens? Yeah, they will go back to photographic evidence and say, hey, on 2 months ago you were smoking in public. Now I will punish you. No. So the presumption is against retrospectivity, especially where vested interests are operating. Okay, where people have put themselves in a position where they have suffered any financial harm or where they have incurred any expenses, etc. Suddenly you cannot come and tell them that what they did was wrong and they have to, right? Now, let us see what the time is, because effect of repeal is an interesting area. I would like to sort of give a small break. Yeah, so that is what, as you rightly say, Neha Verma, that is not fair. That is why General Clauses Act very clearly says any amendment will be prospective. Okay, unless it is stated that it has retrospective operation. Okay, where the law clearly says it is, which is why Parliament also, as part of legislative discipline, will not make retrospectivity in all cases. They'll be very careful. Okay. Yeah. So retrospective amendments are always dangerous. Of course, you can test it in the court of law. You can go against. That is where constitutional law is there. You will invoke this provision and says there is always a presumption against retrospectivity. Purpose of this law, and then you can argue. But if the words are expressly giving retrospective effect, then the law will apply retrospectively. Okay, but if the law is silent, the government cannot presume retrospectivity. Okay, the law will be applicable only from the day it is notified. Okay. For example, 43 CA was introduced, by which I think 2014 Finance Act. So it was introduced for the purpose of taxing where there is a sale of land becomes stock in trade. Real estate promoter, land becomes stock in trade. They sell the land. Land is sold at a price below the guideline value. Before 2014, you could tax it only at the transaction value. 2014 onwards, the government is entitled to tax it at the guideline value, even though the parties might fix a lower rate than the guideline value. So that will not operate retrospectively. Exact cutoff point from the day it's notified, from that day it is from the day the Finance Act is passed in Parliament, it comes into effect. From that day, you can take it. Beyond that, it cannot. These things are very, very important. Okay, these dates are very, very important because retrospectivity is always one, which is why TDS amendment also will be very careful from which date we have to see. Sometimes amendments are brought in the middle of the year. Okay, then we have to be very careful. The dates become very important. Okay, retrospectivity cannot be presumed. Up to that date, old law. Beyond that, new law. Wonderful. Time is now 8:30. I'll give a small break for about, shall we say, 5 to 10 minutes. Like 5 extendable to 10, right? Sir. Thank you. Welcome back from your break. So now we will take up repeal. Okay, repeal. Repeal means to take back, so that the law will no longer be applicable. Now what you should understand is, a law may be entirely repealed, or a portion of the law may be repealed, or substantive portion of the law may be repealed, like that. Depends. Whatever is the intention of Parliament. Now repeal can be done only by Parliament. Okay, usually how the repeal will happen, when there is an old law, a new law may be passed. That new law will have a section. The new law will have a section which says the old law is repealed. Or the new law will have a section which says the old law is repealed except for the following sections. So to that extent, the old law will still be applicable. Classic example is not the Companies Act. Of course, Companies Act. FEMA is an earlier example. The Foreign Exchange Management Act was passed. When it was passed, FERA was repealed. The earlier law relating to foreign exchange was called the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. That was repealed. But while repealing it, in FEMA there is a repealing provision. If you go through the FEMA later on, you come to final, you will find again they will find repeals, where very clearly they say FERA is repealed, savings will be there. Some provisions of FERA are continued. Also, proceedings under FERA were saved. Suppose proceedings are there which have been initiated under the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, because the law is repealed, those proceedings will not become, shall we say, infructuous. The government has taken action against people who have violated the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. Those proceedings will continue. No, all that will be provided in the repeal provision. You can't simply repeal a law and go. So FEMA is a classic example. Similarly, Companies Act 2013, the useless law, it repealed the Companies Act 1956. Okay, so on and so forth. So whenever there's a new law, or there may be no need for a law, we will repeal it. For that, a separate act will be passed. So and so enactment repeals act, and that repeal act would be there. So the BIFR, the SICA, the Sikh Industrial Companies Act was there. SICA, that was felt to be outmoded and more built on so-called socialistic principles. It was not in tune with the international understanding of insolvency law. Therefore, they said, let's take it off, and SICA was removed. SICA was repealed. Okay, like that, laws are repealed. Repealing is not wrong, because everything cannot be there forever and ever. When there's new things coming, that's part of life. Okay, the old order changes and the new has to take over. Okay, that's what I said in Tamil, but the same thing in English would be the old order changes and the new has to be taken up, or has to enter. You have nothing else. That is part of life. Change is part of life. Okay, if somebody thinks they can live forever and ever, maybe they will, but not possible. Even human beings may be long, they might have longevity and live long and, be irritated and bother us. But ideas have very short duration today. Ideas have a very short life. There's an idea that comes up, it looks nice, but it's like a bubble. Matter of 2 years, that idea becomes gone. Okay, the idea is there. We think it's the best idea. Some of us think it's the only idea and that it will never change. For example, work from home. When the peak pandemic, I used to hear people saying, this is how life will be. From now on, nobody will have office. Close all the offices. All of us will work from home. Today, companies have understood that people are better working in the office than at home. Not everybody is as matured as they thought they were. So they felt better you come in my control. I'll be visually able to see what you're doing. And now calling back. Even IT, the so-called IT companies who are promoting work from home are pushing things back. I mean, all I'm trying to give you an example. When that came, see, one thing during pandemic, I addressed a group of entrepreneurs across Tamil Nadu, about 2,000 entrepreneurs online, and I told them only one thing: this too shall pass. This too shall pass. Iduvum kadandu pogum. This too shall pass. And so prepare yourself for a pandemic-free world. No, sir. Pandemic is here to stay. Everybody, that is all, end of story like that. They are telling, no, sir, maximum 2 years. Okay, pandemic cannot survive us. Okay, we will kill it and we will go on with our life, is what I said. But for that life, be prepared now itself. Those of them who listen to me, come and tell me today, sir, we took your message and we didn't despair. We didn't lose hope. We invested in our business. We used the time to re-look at our business. We did BPR. We removed unnecessary employees. We got good people. Now we are better, sir. So I asked them to use that time to prepare themselves for the next growth. Instead of saying everything is gone, like a headless chicken, running around. Sort of. Right. So repealing is part of life. Repeals will happen. But when repeals happen, the legal provision is the repeal shall not revive anything not enforced or prevailed during the period at which repeal is effected. See, when there is a repeal, it doesn't mean that something which was there earlier will be revived by the repeal. Simply what was provided in that law will no longer be applicable. That's all. You cannot create, because this is repealed, I will do this. No, there should be permission for it. Okay. It will not affect the previous operation of any enactment so repealed or anything duly done or suffered there and there. So until the date of repeal, whatever action has been taken will be valid. Whatever done will be valid. So it cannot have any retrospective effect of previous operation. Right? Repeal cannot be previous. You cannot say this law was never there. Not this. So sorry. The date of repeal will be clearly mentioned with effect from so and so date. From that date, the law won't apply. Before that date, it will apply. It will not affect any right, privilege, or obligation or liability acquired, accrued, or incurred under any enactment so repealed. So any privilege, right, or obligation or liability which was acquired, the right is acquired, privilege is acquired, obligation is accrued, liability is incurred. Okay, whatever happens under the earlier enactment, repeal will not affect it. It will not affect any penalty, forfeiture, or punishment incurred in respect of any offense committed against any enactment so repealed. This is what I said. It so happens, FEMA has an express provision, okay, saving that any offense, any proceeding under the old law can be. But if suppose somebody has committed an offense under the old law, we never knew about it. Now it comes to light. Still, if the date is before the repealing date, I can invoke the old law and punish him under the old law. So this is what General Clauses Act says. It will not affect any inquiry, litigation, or remedy with regard to such claim, privilege, debt, or responsibility, or remedy which may be initiated, continued, or insisted. So whatever happened up to the date of repeal, even though the law is repealed, the right, privilege, etc. will continue. So to that extent, the law will continue to apply. Okay? Where any central act or regulation made after the commencement of this act repeals any enactment by which the text of any central act or regulation is amended by the express omission, insertion, or substitution, then unless a different intention appear, the repeal shall not affect the continuance of any such amendment made by the enactment so repealed and in operation at the time of such repeal. So when merely you are including a word or substituting a word, the amendment will continue, the enactment to that extent, whatever is repealed will not be applicable. Rest of the enactment will continue to apply. This is a recent amendment to the General Clauses Act. Now, you repeal a law, you can revive it also. Okay. But this cannot be done by implication. You should very clearly mention if you want to revive and repeal the statute, you have to state the intention to do so. Okay. So this is there. Now, this is a very interesting section. I thought I will talk about it a little. Means, very interesting section. Before that, let us look at retrospectivity. Pooja has a point. Retrospectivity can be limited to be applicable from a, but yeah, absolutely. It can be limited to a particular date, or it can be, we can also say, this provision is now changed. The due date is now 60 days, and it shall always be construed to be 60 days. That means right from the time the act was passed, it will be there. Or for the limited purpose of administrative purpose, this law is made applicable to all transactions entered into on or after a day which is before the date of the amendment. So limited retrospectivity is also possible. Okay. It all depends on the words of the statute. You have to be very careful while reading the law. Dates become very important. Okay. So it can be limited or applicable from a particular date. It can be, but not necessarily. I can make it retrospective from the beginning. But normally, retrospectivity should be avoided. Retrospectivity is not presumed. If it is not mentioned specifically, it cannot be presumed. The Parliament should be very careful before bringing retrospectivity. And if retrospectivity is causing harm or prejudice to a person, he has a constitutional remedy to seek relief from the appropriate courts. Okay. Where this act or central act or regulation made after the commencement of this act repeals and reenacts. See, they use this act because General Clauses Act itself has repealed a few acts. So they say this act or central act or regulation made after the commencement of this act repeals and reenacts with or without modification any provision of a former enactment, then references in any other enactment or in any instrument, the provision so repealed shall, unless a different intention appears, be construed as references to the provision so reenacted. I know this is all confusing. I'll just explain to you simple words. Suppose we have repealed a law, right? Okay? Or particular part of a old law. Then later we refer to this. Okay? For example, foreign company, the section applicable to foreign companies in the earlier law was there. Now it has been amended. The new sections are there. But some laws, when they talk about foreign company incorporated outside India, may refer to the provisions of the Companies Act 1956. They may refer to the old 590. So, Section 8 says that reference will be construed as a reference to the new provision, the reenacted provision. So, even if you find the old section is there, for example, oppression and mismanagement, old sections were 397 and 398. If the old sections are wrongly mentioned also, it will be as if it refers to the new. Provided there is a new provision here parallelly. Suppose there is no new provision, then what can be? Okay, but if there is a corresponding new provision, then that provision will be applicable. For example, for appointment of managerial personnel, you will see it later on when you come to final. My point is very simple. Appointment of managerial personnel, the rules are, the way it is to be done is contained, it was contained in Schedule 13 of the old law, 1956 law. That Schedule 13 had certain enactments under which a person should not be convicted, or for those enactments list was given. Beauty is that list of enactment did not have had laws which had been repealed, like the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. Now, if so, then I can apply Section 8 and say, wherever the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act has been referred to, that reference will be construed as reference to the new law, the Foreign Exchange Management Act. For example, the old MRTP, Monopolies and Restricted Trade Practices Act, was repealed by the Competition Act. All are in your all are in your final syllabus. Okay, you'll have the pleasure of learning them when you come to final. Now we come to another very important and interesting section. Okay. Commencement and termination of time. So whenever they say some time limit is prescribed, then you have to do it within 30 days. You have to do it within 60 days. So many sections are there in the Companies Act. 60 days, like that. Then how do I count 60 days? See, when a transfer of shares instrument of transfer is received, the transfer should be effected, or the information or the notice of refusal should be given within 60 days. Whatever. Okay. Now, how to count that 60 days? We are not really concerned about that provision here. I told you, this is a subroutine. This is like a macro. Where the days have been prescribed, the General Clauses Act has a macro. That macro says how to compute that 60 days. What is the rule they give you? The rule they give you is you should exclude the first in a series of days. So if it says 30 days from the date of receipt or 30 days from the date of receipt of the instrument of transfer, then for counting 30 days, the date of receipt should not be taken. So exclude the first in a series of dates, and the last should be included. So if I am asked to count 30 days from a particular date, from the date of receipt of the instrument of transfer, example, then I should exclude that date. Start counting from the next date and keep on counting till I reach 30. That last day will be included. The 30th day will be included. So, excluding the first in a series of days or any other period of time, to use the word from, and for the purpose of including the last in a series of days or any other period of time, to use the word to. So, when I say 30 days, then I will say from excluding the date of the first day onwards to the last date. Okay. An example could easily help you understand. An example could easily help you understand. And here the example is again taken from the, Companies Act. Now, when you're reading this, you'd be tempted to think it is a question on dividend. In fact, somebody reading it in the scanner, publication, they might wrongly take it and put it under dividend. This is, of course, a question on dividend. Actually, you should have knowledge of dividend. Both two topics have to be brought in here. You should be familiar with the provisions relating to declaration of dividend and the General Clauses Act. So, COL Limited declares a dividend for its shareholding. I don't know what it is. See, sorry, English not mine. In its AGM held on 27 September 2021. So, when should the dividend be paid? The date during which COL Limited is required to pay the dividend. That is the time limit for paying the dividend. I think that is the intention of the paper setter. The word date during which is not possibly good English, but what the paper setter is trying to ask is, what is the time limit within which COL Limited is required to pay the dividend? Within 30 days. Correct? You know that. You studied it. Dividend once declared should be paid within 30 days from the date of declaration. From the date of declaration. 30 days from the date of declaration. The minute you say from, General Clauses Act says exclude that date. Exclude that date. So, date of AGM to be excluded. Because date of declare, from, the word from is used, then the first day should be excluded. Then you start counting from the next day. So, 27th September, na? So, declaration date, 27th ignored. So, from 28th onwards, you have to count 30 days. 28th onwards, you have to count 30 days. So, if you keep doing that, 27th September, then if I count, see, 27th September should be ignored, should be excluded. From the first date should be excluded. So the date of declaration excluded. Then 28, 29, 30, you count it. You will come to 27/10/2021. This is the 30th day. That last day will be included. That is 27/10. So the company should pay the dividend on or before 27/10/2021. So the period of payment of dividend, the period within which COL Limited will be required to pay dividend is from 28/9/2020, within the period of 28/9/2021 to 27/10/2021. So 000001, 28/9/2021 to 000000 27/10/2020. That is 1 minute today to midnight 27/10. I have time. Within that period, anytime I can pay. Right? Next question is extension. When is it supposed to transfer the unpaid or unclaimed dividend? Within 7 days from the expiry of 30 days. So 30 days is expiring on 27/10. Correct? So as per the General Clauses Act, 27/10 should be ignored. That means only 28th October can be taken. Simple now. Now you know the rule. So 28, 29, 30, October na 31, 1, 2, 3. 3 should be included. The last day should be included. So before midnight, 3rd November, it has to be transferred. Both days included. From 28th to 3rd, 7 days, you have to transfer the dividend to the unpaid dividend account. Right. I think this is fairly clear. I merely see easily this one particular topic, you can actually read from the Bare Act and you can easily understand. Correct. Wonderful. Great. So, now we are talking about regulation coming into force. An act of parliament which has not specifically mentioned a particular date, then it will come into force on the date the president gives the assent. The SEBI has, this is called the ICDR, very famous. It was amended in 2015, major amendment. SEBI came out with an amendment. ICDR, Issue of Capital and Disclosure Requirements, 5th Amendment, regulations. The famous regulations, they were amended 2015. So that ICDR regulations amendment was, that the regulation was issued on by notification dated 14th August. So the amended regulation, the amendments to the, see, what they will do is, they may not redraft the entire thing. They will say, in clause number so-and-so, this will be included like that. So those amendments were notified on 14th August 2015, but with the effect from 1st January 2016. So, passed in Lok Sabha, passed in Rajya Sabha, assent of President received, that particular regulation says this will come into effect from the date notified. So notification is needed. Notification was made on 14th August. If the notification does not mention when it will come into effect, it will come into effect on 14th August. But that notification says this regulation will come into effect from 1st January 2016. So possibly because there might have been many amendments which needed time to the corporates to react. So they would have told them, hey, you can't bring it day after tomorrow. Please give me time. So they said, chalo. These amendments will come into effect from 1st January 2016. That notification, the amendment was notified, published in the official Gazette on 14th August 2015. But that notification says these amendments will take effect from 1st January 2016. So common sense tells me it will come into effect or come into force on 1st January 2016. So where any central act has not specifically mentioned a particular date, it shall be implemented on the day on which it receives the assent of the president in the case of an act of parliament. In the case of a state government, the same law, same thing is governor of the state. Okay. Now where the specific date prescribed in the official gazette, then it will come on such date. So you have to always be careful while reading a section. If you find that it is amended, please go back and find out when it was notified. And in that notification, did they mention any effective date? Then from that date only it will come into effect. So again, another interesting area that we are talking about here is computation of time. That is simple. Suppose you have to file a document with a government department or a court or an office. On that day, it is a public holiday. When can I do it? On the next working day. That's all. So, but I should have taken the effort to file it, but I find that on that day, it is a public holiday. Then it's declared. Then the next working day, when the office is open or court is open, I can file. This is the General Clauses Act. Okay. Where for example, if due date for filing the return falls on a Sunday or falls on a national holiday then. But today it may not apply because it is all online. But still you can argue and say it will apply on the next working day. Right? Suppose you have to go to some place and file it. But, today they have very clearly said for Income Tax Act and all, it's online application. So even if it's a holiday, you have to file it. But courts are not like that. Courts work only on certain days and for certain time. If you have not filed it, or if that day is a public holiday, then the next day, which is not a public holiday. Okay. So PK and VK had a long dispute regarding ownership of a land. Legal suit was pending. The court fixed the date of hearing on 29/4, subsequently announced as a holiday. Then when will the hearing be held? That word, that 29/4 will be construed as the next working day. You need not go to court and ask, sir, when can I come? Automatically the next working day. Okay. For example, coming week, you will find Sunday, followed 14th of August is a Sunday, holiday. 15th of August is a Independence Day, holiday. Now, so there's going to be a real problem. So any due date falling on 14th or 15th of August will become 16th of August because 14th August, Sunday, court will not work. 15th August, Independence Day, court will not work. So 16th August. Next working day. Similarly, Ajit was supposed to submit an appeal to High Court. 30th March was the last day. Unfortunately, on that day, High Court was closed due to pandemic. Examine the remedy available. Friends, be careful. This section in the General Clauses Act will apply only where physically you have to file a form in a physical location, which could be locked, where you are expected to do it through internet, right? Then, but there again, there is another problem where, the website is not allowing me to upload it. Okay, that is there, but that is not covered here. There should be some clarity for that also, where I sincerely go and I prove, but that they are not willing there. But the only thing is, see, suppose you are filing July 31st deadline, all of you, if you're, when you go from this class, you will go to office, hopefully, and you will support your office to file the returns and all that, hopefully, just as my articles are doing it in my office. So kindly go and work and do your job. So of course, tomorrow midnight will be real pressure in my office. It's a Sunday, but we will be filing because online there is no holiday. You have to file it. So they work on Sunday and till midnight we have to file more than 300 returns have to go. 90 are yet to come. All those donkeys will come only today. Exactly today they'll come. My office will be like a fish market. Everybody will come in, giving documents, shouting. We will not encourage that. We will say, look here, we gave you an information in May that you have to come on July 31st. What were you doing? Plucking jasmine flowers? Now you come and tell us that you have to file. No problem, wait. You will be in a queue only. So, but even then we will struggle hard and ensure that everything goes on July 31st midnight. But God forbid, if suppose the system is down, whose fault? My fault? But, sir, there is a problem with virtuality. Suppose it's my network problem, so we have to protect ourselves. Suppose the server is down, it's not my problem. In those cases, the government should be very careful about providing some circular saying it will extend. But in the case of physical location, if it is a holiday and you are not able to do it, then if it's in the physical location, if you are not able to do it, then you have to file it on the next working day when the High Court is. Distances are measured. This is very simple. I don't want to waste your time. From now on, I will not waste your time because some of it is fairly simple. Distance should be measured on a straight line and horizontal plane. There may be a road route or a rail route, but you can't take that. You can't take the Google map. No. You have to take straight line, point to point, and see what is the distance. Okay. This is there, especially agricultural income, 9 kilometers. You can't take 9 kilometers by road. You have to take straight line. As the crow flies, they say. Okay. So, see this question, unnecessarily they give 100 kilometers, 80 kilometers and all. Answer is the distance shall, unless the different intention appears, be measured in a straight line. What happened was, definition of agricultural income, agricultural land, they in capital asset, they exempted agricultural land. There they earlier did not mention this. So we used to take road route. In fact, I used to, in many cases, I will insist the client takes me, I will travel from that location to the nearest municipality and see what is the distance and all that. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is now they have said, as the crow flies, straight line on a horizontal plane. I think no, it cannot be clearer than that. So now I have to take the map, draw a line, then use geometry to find out what is the length. Okay. You can easily do that. It's not very difficult here. Find out a right angle, measure the distance from the right angle, and then you will get the hypotenuse. It's not very difficult. Because any line is hypotenuse for two lines which form a right angle. Just easily you can find out the length of the hypotenuse once you know the length of the two lines. Now, where anything is to be measured on the basis of quantity or weight or value, then for a higher quantity or a higher value, it will be pro rata. That's all. Proportionately. Pro rata is a Latin term meaning proportionately. Okay. We come to our famous gender and number. That is words indicating the masculine gender shall include female. Words in singular include plural and all that. So wherever the word he is used, automatically it includes she. His, her. His will include her and so on. Similarly, members includes member. Words in singular shall include plural and vice versa. Words in plural will include singular also. So that's okay. That's all meant to be there. So where you say his father and mother, automatically it includes her father and mother also. But be careful. Succession law, where they talk purely male descendants, that cannot include female descendants. Okay. But where the pronouns are used, especially he, him, etc., his, automatically the female gender also can be included in that, right? But where a word connoting a common gender is available, but the word used conveys a specific gender, then it's better to go for. See, the word bullocks is meant for male cow, right? Bullock. It could not be interpreted to include cow, especially bullocks. See, you will normally not use a cow for pulling a cart. In fact, that's in some cultures it is considered to be not good to use a cow for pulling a cart. Okay? You can use only a bullock, a male. Okay? So in those cases, you cannot say bullock will include cow also. Okay? Good. Where any central act gives any power, then unless a different intention appears, that power may be exercised from time to time as occasion requires. So once the power is given, it can be exercised from time to time. Okay. So see, from now on, it's all very, not very important. I'm just covering it for the sake of completing. Where any legislation or regulation, a power to appoint any person to fill any office or execute any function is conferred, then it also includes, okay, such, it may be made either by name or by virtue of office. For example, we have the power to appoint a member of the committee. Now, that can be indicated either by the name or, for example, committee will be, this committee will include, okay, the chairman of the board, then CBDT. Then it may be either by name, by his own name, or we can say chairman CBDT will become ex officio member. For example, I was secretary of SICASA. I was the secretary of the Southern India Chartered Accountants Students Association. Now, the student committee of the institute in those days, I don't know about it today, included the secretary and vice chairman as ex officio members. So, Srikanth was not a member. Secretary SICASA was a member. And so, when I became secretary, for during that period, I could attend. I became the secretary of the Tamil Nadu Investor Association. By virtue of being the secretary, I was ex officio member of SEBI committee on application. So that SEBI formed the committee. They said all investor associations registered with SEBI, the secretaries of those associations will become the ex officio members, and so on and so forth. So ex officio is a Latin word which means by virtue of one's position or office. So it can be either by name or by virtue of office. So instead of saying by virtue of office, you can say ex officio. Okay. Not very important here. These are all. So whenever there is a power to appoint, it also has the power to suspend or dismiss. Once the power to appoint is given to an authority, then that authority also has the power to suspend or dismiss. That's all. Nothing. This is not some rocket science. Okay. A law applicable to the chief or superior shall apply to the subordinates or deputies also who perform that office in the place of their superior. So if it says registrar of companies, it automatically includes the additional registrars, the deputy registrar, the assistant registrar, who are performing the duties of that office in the place of their superior. So even though the man doing it is additional, he is doing the job of registrar, then this law will apply to him. Okay. Whereby any legislation or regulation, a power to issue any notification, order, scheme, rule, form, or bylaw is conferred, then anything, unless there is anything repugnant in the subject or context, it will have the respective meaning as in the act or regulation conferring power. So this is just ensuring that there is a clarity on what the power is. Okay. Where any legislation gives a power to issue notification, etc., etc., it will also has the right to vary or rescind any notifications. So, see, these are all common sense in that. When I have the power to appoint, I should have the power to remove also, suspend also. When I have the power to notify, I should also have the power to vary or rescind, means take it back, etc., etc. Okay. Making of rules or bylaws an issue of between passing and commencement of enactment. See, this is very interesting. Whereby any central act or regulation which is not come into force immediately, the power is conferred to make rules or bylaws, and rules are made by virtue of that power. Those rules they have the power to make those rules, but those rules will come into effect only when the enactment is coming into effect. I'll give a classic example. The Companies Act 2013 was passed in Parliament, but it was not notified. It was notified only in 2014. Many sections were notified only in 14 and 15. The entire Act, by the time it was fully notified, it was 15. In the meantime, the Act contained power to make rules. Based on that, they had made rules also. Now, the point is, even though the law has not come into force, the government has the power to make rules, but those rules will not come into effect until the commencement of that Act or regulation. So what happened is, when we got the Companies Act 2013, central government was very smart. They made the rules also. So the minute they notified the Companies Act 2013, some sections they notified, automatically the associated rules also got notified. And they made these rules before those act was notified. They are entitled to do it. Okay. Between the passing and commencement of the enactment, they can make rules and bylaws. Those rules and bylaws will be valid. You cannot say, hey, the act itself has not come into force. How you can make rules? You can. But the rules which are made before the commencement of that enactment will not be applicable until that enactment itself has commenced. But the minute that enactment has commenced, automatically the rules will commence. Okay. So this is an enabling provision. The purpose of 22 is to ensure that rules can be made well in advance. And once the enactment is made effective, commences, automatically the rules also will commence. So it validates rules and bylaws and orders made before the coming into force of the enactment, provided they are made after its passing and as preparatory to the enactment. Classic example is Companies Act 2013. Badly worded law, badly worded rules, but they were smart enough to make it ready so that when they notified the act, automatically the rules also came into effect. Okay. Where any central act or regulation, okay, by a notification under section 5 or 5 law has been extended to any local area, has been withdrawn from that area, it shall be deemed to have been repealed and reenacted in such area within the meaning of that provision. So you can make a law applicable to a particular area, or you can say it won't apply to that area. See, during flood in Kerala, during pandemic and all that, this was used, where they said this particular law for this period will not be applied to Kerala, will not be applicable to parts where there's a pandemic. Specifically, they said it will apply only this area. Being a red area will not apply. You don't have to comply. Rest of India, I have to comply. Here, I don't have to comply. Like that. So notifications were given right, left, and center. All that is very important, which is why please do not rely on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is not the official source of legal matters. If you want to tell something, please go to the official Gazette, where the publication will be there, or go to Google, search, go to the Gazette and see, and get it from the Gazette, rather than rely on WhatsApp messages, which donkeys are passing. Some donkeys are sending. I saw one message the other day, GST is applicable on a slab rate, up to 1,000 rupees, no GST, and all nonsense. When the bill is less than 1,000, no GST, 1,000 and 1,000, and some nonsense has been put and circulated, and some donkeys are also forwarding it. See, they should have common sense. Now they are forwarding it. So please do not rely on WhatsApp as your only or alternate source, even an alternate source of information. No. WhatsApp is meant for sending messages, sharing thing, or like that. Data. Do not use it for your knowledge. If you want to increase your knowledge through the digital world, Google is the right place to go. Wiki is the right place to go. Go to Wikipedia, refer. If it's not in Wiki, then go elsewhere. In fact, many times I'm asked to speak at forums on topics where I'm not very familiar, but related to my areas of expertise, right from psychology, HR, management, okay, etc., right up to your finance and taxation. The whole gamut of my knowledge base. Sometimes I'm not fully aware of a particular topic. Then I will go to Wiki and I will do research. And then I will understand. Then I will read some other thing. Then that combined. Then I will simplify it. Then I will go and give my lecture to the people. Okay, that is how you have to acquire knowledge. Not by reading some donkey WhatsApp posts or some donkey blog who's writing some donkey things. Please do not. Some fellows will write blogs. Okay, you might find it interesting, agreed, but don't quote it as an authority. That's all I can say. But having said that, there are good sides. For example, with the due regards, words expressed herein are those of the speaker and not the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Tax Guru is a good place to start. Tax Guru, they've done it with. Because Tax Guru has become almost like another Google Now for us, for Indian laws, especially taxation and company law. But then again, you see people like company secretaries are coming and putting information. Cost accountants are putting there. See, we really don't know whether they are right or wrong. So better we use it as a starting point, but test it and verify it. Okay. Anyway, so this is similar provisions are given regarding continuation of proceedings, etc. Section 26 says, a person cannot be punished for the same offense twice. That's all. In simple terms, a person cannot be punished twice for the same offense. Okay? Means if two enactments are identifying the same offense and punishing it, a person cannot be punished under both the enactments. He can be punished only under one enactment. Okay? See, this is also enshrined in Article 22 of the Constitution. Actually, in England, this used to be called double jeopardy. Double jeopardy. 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 Double jeopardy. There is a prohibition on double jeopardy. The American Constitution also prevents double jeopardy. Indian also, all reasonable democracies will have provision against double jeopardy. That is, a person cannot be punished for the same offense twice. Article 20, subsection 2 of the Constitution states that no person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offense more than once. I mean, after all, yes, how many times you can punish him? Okay. So, I mean, this is the principle of natural justice. Okay. But Section 26 also only reinforces 20 subsection 2. Remember, 26 of General Clauses Act comes before 20 subsection 2. Later on, it has become a constitutional right now. I cannot be punished for the same offense twice. Right? Sometimes my wife will shout at me, okay, on one offense. I will say coming late was an offense, yeah. No, because you came late only I could not. Hey, come on, already I've been punished. Don't punish me again. You can't keep on punishing me for the same offense. But be careful. If they are two different offenses, they may seem similar, but they may be two different. See, for example, not holding annual general meeting is one offense. Not filing the annual return is another offense. So you cannot say, sir, I've been punished for not holding AGM. Why are you again punishing me for not filing annual return? I will punish you for not holding AGM. I will punish you for not filing the annual return. I will punish you for not filing the financial statement. 3 things I will punish you. Okay, they are told alag na? But same, you cannot be punished 2 times. For example, Mr. Ram, an advocate, has fraudulently deceived his client, Mr. Sham, who was taking his expert advice on taxation matters. Now, Mr. Ram is liable to a fine for acting fraudulently under the Advocates Act 61 as well as Income Tax Act 61. Okay. Now, Income Tax Act also has similar penalties. Okay. Now, can he be punished under both? Now that you are aware of this section 26, because of section 26, Mr. Ram cannot be punished and twice for the same offense. So either this or that. So what happens if both the authorities take action against you? You should immediately go to them and say, hey, both of you cannot do it. Decide which of you is going to do it, and then I will come to you. And I will defend myself there. Even you can defend yourself in both the proceedings. Finally, if sentence is to be passed, you can say, hey, you can do it only once. Though this is coming at the fag end, it is very interesting. The sum and substance is, suppose something is put in the ordinary course of post, then if it is properly addressed and prepaid and posted by registered post, then it shall be deemed to have been delivered. The letter containing the document to have been effected at the time at which the letter would be delivered in the ordinary course of post. So, posting by registered post, okay, properly addressed, prepaid, means you pay the postage in advance, which is what we normally do by affixing the stamp, and the registered post. Then, once, see, the point is simple. Many times, I send something and the other person says, I didn't get it. Then I will simply tell them, boss, look here. I've sent it by post. Here's the registered post acknowledgement due, given by the post office. They have taken it. Then, obviously, you would have received it. Yeah? If you have not received it, that is your problem. Is this the address given by you? Yes. Have I sent it to that address? Yes. Now, what is my problem here? Sometimes in income tax department also we do it, but not by post. There they have tapal. So invariably, I will talk to the officer. I will tell him, show him the documents. He will see it. And then he'll say, I will see it and I'll give it to you. And said, sir, no problem. I'll give you one more copy. You keep it. But one copy I'm going to file in tapal. They will also agree immediately. They will say, chalo, go and file it. Because that becomes my proof that it was filed. As a future chartered accountant, please remember, never submit any document without getting acknowledgement, proof. You won't know the value of it unless you go to appeal or in a later proceeding. If I had the time, I would tell you this. One gentleman, one officer was so friendly with me. For a hearings, after hearing, I used to go, in those days, before faceless, bundle of documents, I used to go and give it to him for assessment. And he used to take it and keep it. I'll see it, she can't keep it here. But what I told him was, I'll file it in tapal also. So I went and filed it. Every time, I'll give him one copy and file it in tapal also. 2 copies I used to make. Extra paper cost, let the client bear, but it's a protection. Finally, 3 months later, nearing the date of completion of the assessment, the same gentleman sends me a 271(1)B notice, where the assessee has not cooperated, has not filed the details called for, show cause why 271(1)B should not be filed. Take an action. And I went back to him and asked him, what are you saying, Baba? Then he got really upset, frightened. He said, Shrikant sir, sorry, it should not have happened. He said, what are you talking? Every time I came to you, not only did I give you a copy, I filed it and went. Can't your Tapal section give it to you? The answers in the Tapal section have not done it. They simply slipped. Taken. That is the problem with the government. They will do. Then he said, sorry. What happened? This fellow told his inspector, all those who have not filed, you send a notice to, so don't be notice. Now that inspector also another has, he has not seen there are a lot of stuff come from the Tapal section. He has not opened it. And blindly he has sent it. So finally, that gentleman apologized. Then I told him, sir, your apology is not enough. Pass an order saying you are wrong. 272 should not be levied. So immediately he took his order sheet, because there he need not give it in writing. He took his order sheet and said, Shrikant, please see what I am doing. He wrote, penalty proceedings under 271(1)be dropped. He signed it. Till such time he does that, I am not happy. Okay. No. See, this is all very important. Okay. Now, this whole elaborate thing, see the answer. All that you have to ask is, was it posted? Was the address correct? Was the postage prepaid? Was it registered post? Then it is deemed to have been delivered. Okay. Same thing for here also. Okay. Now, section 28 deals with citation of enactments. Okay. Where one enactment is referred to in another enactment. Okay. Even if it is with a short title or title, it will be as if it is reference to that enactment. Okay. So it's a nice section 30 is about ordinances. See, when the parliament is not in session, right? President has the power to pass a law. It will be for a limited period. It can't more than 90 days. It cannot be there. The ordinance has a life. Before that, the president should ensure that the parliament is elected again, and a new elected parliament should ratify the ordinance. Otherwise, the ordinance will lapse. So, ordinance is law made by the President of India or the governor of a state under Article 123 of the Constitution. When the ordinance is made, it will be having the same effect as if it is an act of parliament. So, all the provisions of the General Classes Act applicable to Act will also apply to the ordinances made by the President of India. Right? So, many laws have come as ordinances and then they became law. Okay. The Companies Amendment Act 1999 was originally an ordinance. Then it became the Act of Parliament. Okay. Once it was ratified. So, ordinances are made by the President. I'm sure these you might have studied it when you were studying in civics, in your class. Okay, good. Friends, we have come to the end of this topic. I hope I was able to communicate to you the nuances of this Companies Act, Contract Act, and all that General Clauses Act and all to your satisfaction, to the best of my abilities, the best of the limited knowledge given to me by God. I have been trying to share this with you, and I hope you have got the benefit for it. And yeah, definitely. There is any emergency and all, they will definitely give. During pandemic, Our Lady, Mr. Prime Finance Minister, kept on extending the dates now. Extension. Okay. She is an extension finance minister. Hope now everybody is eagerly waiting that July 31st deadline for filing the return will be extended. Yeah. Ordinance is a law passed by the president during the absence of the parliament. When the parliament is there, the president has no lawmaking power. Please. Only when the parliament is not in session or the parliament has been dissolved. If it is not in session, you call the parliament again. An elected parliament is there, then president has no power to pass laws. But if the parliament has been dissolved or there was no confidence movement and the ruling party is not able to prove its majority, gone, government dissolved, then during that time, who will pass law? Only the president. And whatever he does will be called ordinance. It's not called act. And it will have limited time, 90 days. Beyond that, it will be stated how long in that ordinance itself. After that, it will lapse. Unless, the president can extend it. But before that, he has to get a new parliament, a new set of parliament. He has to ask some party, the coalition, something. The president got a problem. He has to make the party form a government. And that new government will have a parliament. At that time, the new government will ratify the ordinance, or that ordinance may be allowed to lapse. and they may pass a law themselves on that subject. Okay. Point is, ordinance is similar to act. Anything applicable to act applies to ordinance also. Wonderful. Thank you very much for a beautiful cooperation and extremely interactive sessions. I really enjoyed being part of this group of students who were learning. I learned along with you. Many of you have taught me many things. You have educated me. I thank you for that. And I hope I have been able to communicate something to you during this time. Wishing you all the very best in the exam. Wishing you that you should all become members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and be successful in your professional career. Bye.